Welcome to another installation of the 2022 annual report. Today I sit down with ILTA CEO Joy Heath. Joy, welcome.
Thank you, Beth Ann. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
I'm very excited to go through this annual report this year. It's been a big year for us. We've been back in person. We've had lots of new and exciting ventures as ILTANs, and our business partners are more involved than ever before. So from your perspective, would you tell me what made 2022 stand out for you in ways that an ILTAN might not normally know about?
Yeah, you posed that question to me, and I really had to think about it because there were some things that were very visible, and there were some things that, frankly, weren't so visible. So one of them was we really brought both some new and some very well-established, bigger providers to the table. So we had, I think 15 startups at ILTACon. We could have had way more if we'd had room. But we also had Microsoft and Zoom and Cisco, who had not been to the party in a while, who showed up and not only participated as, booths and things like that, but they had material additional meetings with customers and participated in ways that the bigger vendors have not always done, the bigger business partners. So to me, that's something that may not have been visible, was really important. And one of the outgrowths of that, or benefits for the broad ILTA community, is it's helping raise the profile of legal with some of these bigger vendors.
Yes.
I mean, in 2022, we had a legal summit. That hadn't happened since 2019, even though it was virtual. We were in person for Legal Summit with Microsoft in just last month in January. The legal V team has remained strong within Microsoft, and ILTA has been a big part of that. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do. But it's not just that. Zoom had used ILTACon to announce its legal advisory council. Not something they had ever done before. That group has now had 2 meetings. And it's the legal community is influential inside Zoom because they're power users of that platform. So those are, again, things that may not be visible, but they benefit all of ILTA. So one of the other areas that is visible to some are very engaged in it and not very visible to others, is governance. I mean, one of the, I think, least obvious governance changes we made, that I think maybe one of the most important, is we moved from a diversity, equity, inclusion task force, which is kind of a temporary group, and made a diversity, equity, inclusion committee chartered by the board. This means that it really signals an ongoing commitment to this area and putting, really senior volunteer resources on thinking about this in a lot of ways. Probably the more obvious one is the amendment to the bylaws. We had a lot of people vote in that election. The governance committee did a great job putting it together. And we've been able to launch the 2023 election process based on the new bylaws. The election method change was the biggest one, but there was also important stuff that happened that had nothing to do with that kind of fundamental election change. One is that our bylaws were silent on what to do if we had a tie in an election, or what to do if we failed to reach a quorum. Good governance means thinking about those things ahead of time and being prepared for them. And so we handled some of those things in this bylaws revision. And I think that was really, really important stuff. A big theme for last year, again, that because it was involved discrete groups of people, but there were a lot of them, was listening. There was a lot of organized listening happening in ILTA last year. We did some small firm focus groups. We did focus groups at ILTACon and at ILTACon Europe around preparation for the strategic plan. We planned and have now launched a series of focus groups among younger ILTANs and people who are new to legal. They have voices that need to be heard. We did them with the staff. We listened to the subcommittees of the Program Planning Council, one of whom came up with a fantastic proposal about improving the findability of content on our website. We're actively pursuing that. The VLTF's efforts on the new volunteer structure has involved tons of listening and tons of meetings with volunteer groups to make sure that we've covered all of the functions and taken into account the volunteer roles that already exist. Listening to our PAC. I can't say enough about the great job our Partner Advisory Council has done this year in really being collaborative with us about things that benefit, again, the broader community. Related to that is how much front and center, at least for me, and again, but it may not be visible to everybody else, what we've done with partnerships and affiliations. Um, eh, just uh, just recently, we announced a great benefit for ILTA members on a discount with the LSI for people that want advanced threat intelligence. This has been 3 years working on that. That's just one. Our affiliate, or what we often call our sister associations, we're present in large numbers and very visible at ILTACon. We're boosting each other up. We have a lot of common members and a lot of common problems. And we've done programming with LMA and LVN. We have a regular, it's usually bi-monthly or quarterly meeting, me and all my counterparts at the other legal associations. And we talk about our events and our strategies and our crossovers and what we can do to support each other. We continued our partnership with ALM, and we'll be having our legal week again. Well, this is all stuff that started in 2022, and we're seeing it come to fruition now. I've been really happy with the culture of innovation that's catching on at ILTA. Again, it might not be visible. It is to me. Part of that is the new types of events, like our Mastering Teams event we did last year. We've never done anything like that before. That was brand new. Our Women Who Lead very successful virtual roadshow that had this very regional flavor, like a roadshow, but it was done virtually. That's fantastic. And we're thinking constantly about new ways for people to make connections when they're not going into the office every day. When everyone was in the office in a major metropolitan area 5 days a week, you could set up a lunch and learn and be done with it. Coming into the office is purposeful for most people now. And so it's forced us to innovate when it comes to helping people make connections. And sometimes that's around content. Our whole working group program has been a way for people to make deep connections within ILTA that have nothing to do with regions. They have everything to do with content. Yet we still rely on our member liaisons to help keep people connected. So I've been really proud of that culture of innovation. Related to that has been our focus on technology. I mean, we have completely transformed the organization's back office tech over the last few years. And now we're really looking hard at the member-facing tech, the volunteer-facing tech. And we're putting a lot of priority there. That we laid the groundwork for that last year, prepared a budget to support it so that we can do a lot of work on it this year. I think the last thing that's been happening in the background that people don't know about is when I started in 2018, we had ILTACon contracts only for 2019 and 2020. That would be unusual for us. And it's not bad or good, it's just unusual. And one of the difficulties there is that when you have contracts so far in advance, which we often have to do because of the size of our events and the fact that our people like to be all under one roof and they like resort atmosphere, so forth, really makes it difficult for us to reimagine the event. Think about doing it in a different way when you have contracts out years ago. Our team in 2022 did something that I would have thought was impossible, which is negotiated a series of contracts that gave us guaranteed space for the future, but built in the option to fundamentally change the length of the event if we want. Now, nobody panic. I'm not saying we're going to change ILTACon today.
No.
What I'm saying is we now can, if we want to, and still get the benefits of good pricing, of desirable properties by signing contracts in advance. This is not something that most people see. It's a lot of work by a lot of people, but it's really important for the organization. So when you ask me, what are some things that might not be visible? A lot of those might not have been, but they will be. That the outcomes of them, what grows out of those efforts in the background, will make a big difference to the whole ILTA community going forward.
I was going to ask the kind of logical question after the first one, what made things stand out and why it was a building block year. But I think that that's probably a question that doesn't need to be posed. It was clearly a building block year. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any other way around that. We see so many pieces being, if you will, as a puzzle put toward the future. So
Mhm.
instead, how about we talk a little bit about a pipeline? Let's talk about what our future state looks like as we head into 2023. And I know as a staff member, but more as an Ilton, that the 2023 and 20 to 2026 strategic plan is also coming.
It is, and there's been a lot of work that's been done on that already. There are a few themes that I can probably highlight now. You'll be hearing more about. One of them that we hear loud and clear is you can't be everything to everybody. But the problem is, if you're the somebody who isn't the anybody, then you don't like that, right? It's like, I'm
True.
one of the people that's not, that's the everybody. So it's figuring out what people need and how to make more things more self-service. So one of the other things we learned, which was interesting, is that the concept of My ILTA as a brand didn't work particularly well because everybody knew already that's what we were supposed to do. You see what I'm saying? So putting branding on it almost made it sound like it was new when it was what we were aspiring to altogether. But what we knew is that to make My ILTA resonate with this audience, I mean, in a tech audience, when you say my something, it's like automatically a mobile app, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what everybody thinks. So it was all, there was a sense of we needed to do more with technology. We heard that. We heard that. And so some of the thing you're going to see in the strategic plan is embracing that concept of My ILTA without naming it, because it's really in our DNA. Actually, one of our board members said that when we were discussing it. Should be in our DNA. It doesn't need a branding. It doesn't need to be called out. So those are a couple of themes that I think are important, is trying to figure out how we can take this very broad and diverse community we have, and without saying, I need to do one webinar a quarter for knowledge management professionals inside law departments of under 25 lawyers, right? So there's been a lot of focus on looking at roles that across organizational types, a lit support person does a lot of the same things, no matter what organization they're in, or need discovery
True.
person. So thinking a lot about roles so that we can produce content that is widely used and widely available, but people can self-select it based on their role or their organizational type. And this is not only content, it's also connections, ways to make connections in new ways. So I think that you'll hear that. Actually, as I record this, we're going through interviews with board candidates.
Mhm.
And we ask a question about strategic plan, and one of the candidates said, there's actually a lot in here that's still relevant. Exactly. There's a lot in the current plan that's relevant, but we have to figure out what needs to be tweaked to carry it forward. And this gets to your question about the 2023 to 2026. One of the efforts we undertake as part of strategic planning is what we call a future state analysis. So that was the first part of the strategic planning we started, and it started last July of 2022. So we were trying to say, what will the legal services industry vertical look like in 2026?
Sure.
Because then ILTA has to be prepared to deal with that. And we looked at it in 4 areas. One was roles and jobs. What roles and jobs are emerging? What roles and jobs are changing? What's diminishing? And what does that mean for us? The second one is the hybrid workplace. We know it's here to stay, but this has implications in a couple of areas. One is that we need to have programming about it.
Sure.
We need to bring business partners to the table who support it. New products maybe that are supporting hybrid working. But it also means we need to think about that in terms of how people make connections. I said earlier, people aren't coming into a major metropolitan area 5 days a week. So because of the hybrid workplace, we have to help people make connections in new ways. So it has a lot of implications. A third one is the role of technology. And it was funny, when we put that one together, it's kind of like, well, duh, technology's going to get more and more important. But the issue is more granular than that, is what kinds of technologies are people going to be investing in? Is it going to be more client-facing stickiness type of things? Or are people really finally, which they didn't do much before the pandemic, going to be spending a lot of time investing in in-house technology that makes operations more efficient? And what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the business partners we have to bring to the table? What does that mean for our programming? And then the last one that we had was the legal services landscape. Will there continue to be mergers among law firms? Will there continue to be growth of in-house counsel, law departments, and handling more work? And what about the big four? And where do ALSPs fit? And MSPs are a very important part of the ecosystem. How can they best be involved in ILTA? And so those four, we really spent a lot of time thinking about what 2026 would look like. You're going to hear more about that as the strategic plan comes out. But those are the key questions, because the ILTA that we build in the next 3 years and that we evolve and enhance has to match that change in our fundamental community.
I like that idea of evolve and enhance. It's been an interesting 2022. It's been a great 2022.
Yes,
Here's hoping
indeed.
that 2023 is even better. Thank you, Joy.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.